Okay, hi everyone, this is Jill Peranum, and I am going to color this grayscale calendar with you today. A little bit about coloring grayscale for those of you that have never done it or would like to try it. There are several tones in the picture, just like a black and white photograph. And what you do is you choose your darker tones first, you color them, then your medium tones, then your light tones. And this is a picture from Maria Castro. I have printed off, she's kindly given us the colored version also, so I'm gonna just try to color this as close to what is here as possible. What I'm going to start with is the pinks. I have chosen 3 pinks in the Prismacolors. Bear with my short pencils. Prismas are my favorite. The first color for the dark tone is going to be the hot pink, and that is PC 993. The medium tone that I'm going to use is the pink rose, which is PC 1018. 1018. It's called the pink rose. And then for the light tones, I'm going to use the Deco Pink, which is PC 1014. Okay, so we'll just jump right in and get started. I think what I'll start with here is this flower. The petals are pink, and then the rest of this is green, but there's a bit of pink in here. So we'll start with our darker tones, which you'll easily see here where the darker tones are. And you just color those first, and you don't have to do it the same color as any picture. You don't even have to do it in realistic colors. You can do anything that you want. Grayscale is just as fantastic, and just as you can just do anything you want with it, just like a line art picture. I enjoy coloring grayscale very much because it kind of helps you out. I've learned a lot from grayscale for coloring line art by just coloring and learning where to shade. This shows you very easily where to shade and how to do it. So I have put in, there's not a lot of dark tone in the flower petals here. So I've just put some of that in. As you can see, just a little bit. You don't have to apply a lot of pressure. Grayscale is a lot about layers more than it is about pressure. So next we'll work with our medium tone. Get that nice and sharp. And that's the pink rose, number 1018. So we'll go in here and see where the medium tones are. You just fill those in. Very carefully, very light pressure. This is a bachelor button flower, so it is extremely delicate flower. So you don't want anything too overpowering, even if you don't use the pink. If you used some other color, you still don't want it to be something that would be really overpowering, because like I said, this is really a delicate flower. So as you can see, where all the medium tones are is where I'm coloring now. And you can see the medium tones because they're not the white. They're not the darker lines. It's just the medium ones. Grayscale is kind of all about threes. You can make it about more than threes, but it's definitely about threes. If you're not using 3 different pencils and doing 3 different tones, then you're missing some of the amazing effects that you can achieve by doing Grayscale. So this is my first time ever making a video. So if I'm going too fast or going too slow, you're going to have to report back to me and let me know, because I'm just sitting here by myself in my room trying this video, so I don't know if I'm working too fast or not fast enough. So I'll look forward to hearing some feedback. Okay, so now I think we have our basic tones for the light and the dark. Now we're gonna, sorry about that, we're gonna use our lightest color in the flower, which I've chosen the Deco Pink. You can choose anything you want. If you're not using Prismas, you might have some other choices. So what I want to do is kind of blend a little bit the medium and the dark, and also fill in the super light spaces, which is your 3rd tone. So where those are, you're going to want to color that in. And doing it this way should pretty much seamlessly blend the picture for you as you go. So you don't have to have a lot of time. I just go over the dark lines, very super light pressure, just to kind of put them a little bit, not get rid of them, but put them a little bit in the background. See how they're kind of just fading a little into the background. And we're getting our lightest part of our petals here. While we're blending in the other 2 colors together so that they look pretty seamless. Now you can also go back in if you feel like you need a little more color, that maybe you blended it in a little too much. But please, if you remember anything, it's all about layers. It's all about blending. It's all about soft, very thin layers. Even though I'm adding a little bit more of the darkest color in here right now, I'm still going to want to go back and blend that a little bit. And I think to do that, I'll use the medium color, the pink rose, and just go back in, kind of give it a little bit softer look. It's also really important to make sure that you keep your pencils nice and sharp so that you can, you know, really get down here in the little small lines, which when your pencil starts to get dull, that, as you know, gets really hard to do. So I think that will work for now. Okay, now I wanted to show you on here. See the very tip edges here of the green? Well, the flower is down in these creases where the flower has bloomed open. So I'm going to try to take my medium pink and just go in here a little bit before I start any green and fill in those spaces so that there's a little bit of a hint of color down between these green petals. Now you can make it a little darker if you want. If you want a little bit more prominent color to it, you can make it a little bit darker than that. But I just wanted to have a really soft look with it. So now okay, what I'd like to do now is start the greens. And as you can see, there's several different types of green in here, and there's even a little bit of a brownish green for twine. We'll do the leaves starting under here first and just work our way down the stem with the leaves. That way you'll get an idea of how to do the greens. I've chosen 4 greens that I'd like to work with. I've chosen the light sap green, which is PC 120. I've chosen the Celadon green, which is PC 1020. The Prussian green, which is PC 109. And apple green, which is PC 912. And I think also, if you can just bear with me on this, I think I also am going to pull out the chartreuse. And I think I will even start with the chartreuse. The chartreuse, I think, is going to be my lightest yellowish color. The chartreuse is number 989. Those little puppies are hard to see. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, you see here where it's very, very light, right? So I'm just going to just lay a tiny bit of the chartreuse in there, which is not going to give us a whole lot of green. It's really not even going to give us a whole lot of color, but it is going to give us a nice little base to have a little bit of yellow in our leaf, so it's not all just greens. So just lay a little bit in there in some of the lighter areas. And you don't have to do this if you want. You can stick with the 3-color rule if that makes it easier for you. If you're just starting out, that's perfectly fine. And this, just going to take up here a little bit. That's a nice leaf. And a little bit up in here. Even maybe in some of the medium areas to give us that little bit of yellowish color while still sticking with the green. See where there's very light around these? That's why it's really important to have a very sharp pencil. As you can see, I sharpen mine a lot, and so they get really short really fast. Faster than I can replace them sometimes. Okay, So now we have the chartreuse laid in there. What I'm going to go with next, I think, is starting with the darker tones with the Prussian green. And that's PC 109. And sharpen this up here. Where I want to put this is starting here. I want to put it so it defines where the petals kind of stop and start. So I'm going to lay it in there in these areas that seem to be the darkest. Also, the lighter that you color with this, the more you're going to achieve a watercolorish look. And with this kind of doing this piece of Maria Castro's, you're going to want the watercolor look as much as you can get, because that's what's going to make it so beautiful. And since it's a calendar for a year, if you're going to give it as a gift or if you're going to keep it and put it up, you're going to want a beautiful watercolor effect to it so that you or whoever you give the gift to can enjoy it all year long. And this is a great time of the year to start thinking about doing these kind of things, making these gifts so that you're all done and ready to go. Nice little calendar, maybe in a frame from Walmart. I think they're only $2.99 for those little frames. And I think you can even get them the nice little ones that are, they don't have like any frame on the top. It's just glass, and then the sides are flat. So anyway, I'm sure you know what you want to do as far as a gift. Anyway, this is just kind of filling this in a little bit, giving a little bit of definition to where we put the pink in. So that shows that it's kind of the flower coming on down through. Gives it a little bit of definition and softness. Okay, now we'll work our way on down. Just doing the darkest areas all the way down on the leaves. Okay. And it's really important. Some people get really quick with grayscale. And the more that you take your time and the more that you layer and the more that you work with it, the better it's going to be. You're going to be happier with your results, and it's going to be something that's really stress-free for you to do. I enjoy grayscale a lot. I've colored a lot of grayscale, although I love to color line art as well. I really think that coloring grayscale helped me get a feel for where the light comes, where to shade, just by looking at how it looks in the picture. It's a whole different perspective from this to this and putting your own color in. Okay. And now, I think to keep it bright and cheery, I think for my third color, medium tone, I'm going to use the apple green, which is PC 912. I'll just come in here, kind of blend our dark and our light tone very softly. Hardly no pressure on the pencil at all. Just bringing it through and filling in those little bits of gap. And don't be afraid to go over your chartreuse a little bit, because all we're wanting from the chartreuse is just see that little peeking out of a slight yellowish color. So you can go through it here and there. And just blend it through into the rest of the flower with the dark and the light color. Maria has some really amazing grayscales. I'm always going to her Etsy shop to try and find more new grayscales, which she's putting up more all the time, because I love to do them. And hopefully, if I don't totally get this wrong, I might be able to do some lives with you, and we can do even some little more complicated grayscales if you enjoy doing grayscale. Which I hope you do, because it's one of my big loves. I really love doing it. I love doing florals. I even love doing landscapes and animals and people. It's so much fun and so relaxing. And then when you're all done, you have something that's really beautiful, and you'll say to yourself, oh wow, I did that myself. Because I know when you're learning how to shade line art, it can be very frustrating. So this helped me, as I said, immensely with even how to work on my line art. Now I'm going to go over this a little bit over the chartreuse so that it gives my stem a little bit of definition along the way up here. And that was a lot of, I think I'm going to go back and put a little bit more of the Prussian green in here because it's a very dark area. And then come over it with my medium. Gives the stem a little bit more definition. Okay. All right, I think I'm good with the stem now. Now, one last thing that I would like to show you is to do these little baby's breath here. I think we'll go ahead and use the Prussian green, real sharp in the dark areas. Because, you know, when you look at something, you look at nature, you look at animals, you look at people, there's never just one, their skin isn't one tone, the flower doesn't have just one color, the stems don't just have one color. So when you're coloring and you're wanting it to look more realistic, you have to keep that also in mind, that it's the same with your coloring. You have to add, you know, different tones and different shading so that it looks, you know, amazing and way more realistic than just the one color thing. When I first started out coloring, every section was one color. And then the next section might be a different color, but I had no mind for shading. I didn't really even know what I was doing at all. And that's just being really honest. And over the years that I've been doing coloring, I've really learned a lot. Okay, now we'll go in these little tiny greenery underneath the buds. We'll do that with our dark color. Takes a little time, but you've got all the time you need to take. Just enjoy the process and enjoy the doing of it. And hopefully you will like the finished product. Okay, now I'm going to go back in with my apple green and sharpen it just a little bit. I'm going to go back in with my apple green and put a little bit lighter green. And you might not be able to follow the 3-color rule here because there's not much to these teeny tiny stems, but you do just want to have a hint of the lighter, more yellowish green. So that it has some dimension to it. Okay. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. Now, I think what I'll do for these little tiny buds, just so that you can see what I'm doing, I think I'll use the lemon yellow. I wouldn't normally color them a lemon yellow, but I'm going to color them a lemon yellow so that you can see how it looks when when they're colored. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. Just give it a little hint of the color, not a lot of pressure. When you're coloring, think about these flowers and how delicate they are. I don't know too many flowers that are more delicate than a bachelor button and baby's breath. They're just lovely flowers, lovely delicacy to them. And so you're going to want to try to make that come out. When you're coloring them. Just try not to do what I do and forget any of the buds. I've colored so many pictures. I just did an owl not very long ago, and I colored the whole thing, took a picture of it, posted it, and realized I hadn't even colored the eyes of the owl. So don't be like me, an offender like me. Okay, now for one last little thing here, I would like to use the light umber, which is PC 941. Sharpen that up a little bit. And then that'll be our dark tone. I think since this is so delicate also, I'm going to use 2 tones on the twine. This will be the dark tone. But if I have room, I always try to follow the 3-color rule because you will be much happier with your result in the 3-color rule. Okay. There we go. And this is twine, so it's not perfect. Okay, and then I think for the second tone of the twine, I'm going to use the sand color, which is PC 940. Sharpen that up a bit. Lay a little bit of that in here and there. Not a lot. You just want the slightest hint of the yellow that's always in the twine. There. I think that's enough. I don't want to mess with it too much. Now, when you get to down here, I'm not going to color these today, but as you see in the picture, the lighter areas are a little bit yellowish, and these are not too dark. There's a little tiny bit of yellowish in the stem, but also green. Same with these baby's breath here. These, you follow the 3-color rule, light, medium, dark, just the same as we did the leaves up here, and you'll be great. What I will do, though, is before we go, I will color these petals just to practice one more time, a tiny bit with the 3-color rule and the pinks. So I'm going to go back to my pinks here. The 3 pinks, once again, hot pink is my dark, rose pink is my medium, and deco pink is my lightest. So what I'm going to do here is go in with my darkest. I tend to use hot pink like crazy. Anybody that knows me, I am pink, 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 pink. Everything pink. I try to control myself, but sometimes it doesn't work out. So thank you, Maria. At least these were pink, and I have permission to do pink. And I'm loving it. It's a beautiful calendar. I intend to make one for all of my friends. I think that doing homemade gifts is the best thing, because that way it's not so much of a financial burden, and you get to make something lovely, keepsake for people that you really care about. And especially any of your friends that are into arts and crafts will really appreciate it. And there's so many things you can do to, you know, turn it into a beautiful gift and not just a colored piece of paper. Okay, now my medium tones. I'll just be quiet here a minute and color. Just lay in my medium tones in with the dark tones. Try to kind of mix it around in there so the dark tones are not prevalent like lines. And you'll easily be able to see where these tones are. Once you recognize there's 3 tones and you need to use 3 different tones, colors on it, then it's going to become second nature to you before you know it. And then you're going to start looking at your line art and going, you know, even though the 3 tones aren't laid in here, if I want my art to look more realistic or look fuller and more complete, I need to try and practice some of this in, you know, those pictures as well in the line art. So it kind of carries over both ways, and this is a very good teaching thing. So here I'm using my light tone now, the Deco Pink. Very softly in the areas that are light. It should help you seamlessly blend. You shouldn't have to use Gamsol. You shouldn't have to use anything, you know, like a blender pencil or anything like that, because if you're doing really soft layers and just going back and fixing little areas that you see with your colors that you're using, then that should be all that you need to do. Okay, well, that's the basics of that. Now you can, like where the shadow is here, I like to just leave that because it looks like the shadow under here. Under here, I like to just leave it alone and let it be. If you're doing a pastel background, if you're wanting to color each square, you can feel free. You can, you know, do like gold embossing or just gold gel pen on the year. But you've got these petals here that you can color, the baby's breath, the little interesting leaves down here that are kind of yellowish, and then this. And since these flowers are different than this flower, you could also pick a color and grab 3 tones of it and color it a different color other than the pink. And I like to use these as a guide, but I don't normally just color it the way it is. I usually put my own spin on it as far as color. So I suggest, you know, maybe you do that too. Make it your very own. And, you know, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that you learned something new. And I hope I get to talk with you again at some point. All right. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.